The moment I opened my birthday gift, I knew it wasn't cake. It wasn't a toy. It was a cycle tracking bracelet. And my mom said, "You're old enough now to give me a baby." I was 13. How could I possibly understand the horror hidden behind that gift? In this video, I'm going to take you through my terrifying but empowering journey from being forced by my own mother to fighting back with everything I had to save myself and the other girls trapped in silence. Chapter 1. The Nightmare. Birthday. I still remember my 13th birthday. Vividly, a gloomy afternoon in our tiny kitchen where my mother suddenly gathered the whole family. She smiled proudly and said I was finally old enough to do the most important thing, give her a child. She had given birth to me when she was only 15, and for over 2 years, she had been waiting for this moment. 3 miscarriages in a row convinced her that only my young body could bring her one last chance at motherhood. While everyone sat in stunned silence, she pulled out a small pretty box. Inside was an ovulation tracking bracelet. With gleaming eyes, she explained how it would calculate the precise time of ovulation to ensure the highest chance of pregnancy. I looked at that sparkling silver bracelet and felt a chill run down my spine. Behind my mother's sweet smile, I saw it clearly. This wasn't a birthday gift. It was a tool to turn her 13-year-old daughter into a surrogate. Then she told us about Jake, the 19-year-old assistant at the birthing center where she worked as a midwife. According to her plan, he would be the donor. She proudly shared how she had done the same with 2 other girls before me. Both babies were born healthy. Hearing that, my heart sank. That night, after the guests had left, she pulled me upstairs and proudly showed off a tiny crib already set up in the living room. She said that once the baby was born, I could go back to being a normal girl. I nodded in silence. I didn't dare resist. Every time I pushed back, she would cry, recounting her losses, her sacrifices, and how she raised me all alone. She said I owed her my life. I owed her a sibling. The next day, Jake started coming over 3 times a week. My mother turned family dinners into private dates. She bought me makeup, more mature clothes, and even removed the door hinges so I couldn't lock my room anymore. My bedroom, once filled with teddy bears, was now plastered with photos of glowing pregnant women my mom had helped deliver. I suffered in silence, unable to confide in anyone, not even the school counselor. Mom had warned them ahead of time that I might say strange things because of the trauma of her miscarriages, and so the nightmare had only just begun. I knew I had to find a way to escape before that bracelet started counting down to someone else's life inside me. Chapter 2. The Vicious Spiral. On the first day Mom started her plan, I thought it was just some ridiculous adult fantasy. But within days, anything that resembled a normal family routine disappeared completely. Jake suddenly became a regular guest at dinner. 3 nights a week he'd show up, and Mom would vanish into the kitchen, slamming the door shut behind her. The air in the house grew cold and heavy. Only whispers from the kitchen and my anxious eyes remained. Mom began buying me more mature clothes and bright red lipstick so I could look grown up. My bedroom was no longer filled with stuffed animals. Now it was a sea of photos of pregnant women Mom had delivered as a midwife. Every time I curled up in the corner of my bed, I couldn't shake the itchy discomfort inside me, wondering if I was ready enough for what she wanted me to become. Each day, Mom taught me how to stay in shape to ensure better results, like morning workouts, special vitamins to prepare my body. She said it would help the baby grow, and most of all, never taking off the silver ovulation tracking bracelet. I tried to get used to it, but every time the bracelet buzzed softly to alert me of ovulation, my heart clenched. Then just 6 weeks in, everything shattered. That night, Mom made me a glass of orange juice and told me to drink it to freshen my breath before bed. I hesitated but finished it anyway. The next morning, I woke up groggy. My body ached, and Jake was sitting next to me, eyes red, silently watching. When Mom stepped out to make him some tea, Jake leaned in and whispered, "She threatened to ruin me if I didn't agree." I had no way out. My stomach dropped, my limbs went numb. While Mom was out of the room, Jake slipped me his phone. With trembling fingers, I sent a desperate message to my dad, begging him to come save me. That was the moment I realized I couldn't wait another second. This vicious spiral had already pulled me in too deep, and there was only one way out now: run. Chapter 3: The Rescue and the Cruel Truth. The next morning, while Mom was still cheerfully checking the pregnancy test, I just smiled and nodded like an obedient child, but inside my heart was pounding. I knew my dad had arrived, and the police could burst in at any second. And they did. The doorbell rang loud and sharp, and my father stormed in with 2 officers, his eyes colder than I had ever seen. Mom kept her smile, pretending everything was just a misunderstanding. She handed them a journal she had prepared in advance, full of pages I had never written, claiming I desperately wanted to get pregnant to heal the family. But her defense crumbled instantly. Jake! His face, pale, dark rings under his eyes from sleepless nights, broke down in tears. He raised his phone and showed the police a recording. Mom's voice, calm and calculated, discussing every detail: ovulation dates, fertility timing, and threats to expose Jake's personal secrets if he refused. And then came the rest, the stories of the other 2 girls. Mom had deleted every original photo, replacing them with smiling family portraits. But now, the truth surfaced in full brutality. As she collapsed to the floor, screaming about being betrayed as a fertility goddess, I stood there in silence, watching. I was both victim and witness to a monstrous crime. The police cuffed her and led her out, and for the first time in my life, I felt something strange: lightness, freedom, but my heart still ached. The next day, I walked into my dad's house, the first time without my mother's shadow lingering. He hugged me tightly, didn't say a word, just held me, making sure I was safe. That was the beginning of healing. From those first therapy sessions where I learned how to face the trauma and how to begin trusting a life that had once betrayed me. Chapter 4: The Ghost of the Past and the Life or Death Confrontation. One afternoon, not long ago, just when I thought I was finally safe in my father's arms, my phone rang. A message from an unknown number. An image. My mother standing outside a middle school, leaning in to talk to a girl about 12 years old. On the girl's wrist, the silver ovulation tracker shimmered under the sun. My heart clenched. I couldn't believe I was seeing this again. Hands trembling, I handed the phone to my dad. He scanned the photo with tense eyes. "We can't wait for the police again," I whispered. He said nothing, only nodded, and agreed to take me to the school the next afternoon at dismissal. That night, I didn't sleep. I rehearsed the words I'd say to those 2 sisters. That bracelet isn't just a harmless accessory. I told myself to stay calm, but inside, I was chaos. The next morning, Dad drove us across 3 towns. When we reached the school gates, students poured out laughter and chatter, echoing like a nightmare waiting to strike. I scanned the crowd until I spotted them: 2 petite girls with dark hair, a flash of silver on the older sister's wrist. Mom, with that same sweet, artificial smile, waving them over. Without thinking, I ran. I shouted their names. Lynn Mai. The older sister turned startled eyes full of confusion. Before she could react, Mom flung open the car door. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed the older girl's hand and said quickly, "Don't trust her. That bracelet, it's tracking your cycle." Mom screamed that I was delusional. She raised her phone to call security, but before she could, I pointed to the faint scar on my own wrist. "I cut off mine to escape her," I said. And for a second, just a second, something clicked in the girl's eyes. Then she nodded and pulled her younger sister running back toward the school. Dad appeared just in time, stepping between us and Mom. Other parents had gathered watching. Some called for the school security. Mom's eyes widened in rage. She shouted that I was harassing her, but Dad and I stood our ground. We showed the photo, the scar. We told the truth, calm, steady, unflinching. Less than 5 minutes later, the sound of police sirens tore through the air. They arrested Mom right in front of the school gates. She didn't even have a chance to resist. I exhaled. This time she wasn't getting away. But even as relief flooded through me, my heart ached, thinking about the trauma those girls had just barely escaped. That confrontation didn't just save two children, it extinguished the last sick hope my mother had been clinging to. As the police led her away, I watched the two girls disappear safely into the school building, and for the first time I believed it with my whole heart. Truth and justice will always be louder than lies and evil. Chapter 5: The Darkness Behind the Curtain. After the police took my mother back into custody for the second time, I thought it was finally over. But just a few days later, Jake, my reluctant ally, called me late at night. His voice was shaky. "You need to hear this." He sent me a recording of a conversation between my mother and a woman named Nathaniel, a so-called fertility advisor who had apparently mentored my mom since she first entered the birthing profession. They were casually discussing other young candidates, how to secretly drug them, and how to use ovulation tracking apps like the bracelet I'd once worn to control their bodies. Nathaniel's voice was disturbingly cold as she said, "We need to broaden the scope. No one can find out." I sat frozen, staring at the screen. This wasn't just about abused underage girls. It was an entire organized network, planned, executed, and passed around like a secret playbook. The next morning, I met with my dad and played the recording for him. His brow furrowed. "This time we can't rely on the local police alone," he said. I nodded. We had to take it higher. We reached out to the detective who had handled my mom's original case. After listening, she said cautiously, "I'll need visual proof, written records, and most importantly, evidence that minors were targeted." Maybe it was fate. A week later, another anonymous tip landed in my inbox digital files about an orphaned girl and her younger sister who had recently been placed in foster care 2 counties over. I printed out a photo of the girl wearing a silver tracker on her wrist, her expression guarded suspicious. In the days that followed, my father and the detective coordinated with a social worker to stage a covert meeting. They posed as people seeking reproductive health counseling for the girl and invited Nathaniel to provide free guidance at her home. I couldn't be there in person, but Jake helped set up hidden cameras. That afternoon, the footage clearly showed Nathaniel dropping supplements into the girl's drink, casually saying, "Drink this, sweetie. Gotta stay ready for the future." The video was immediately sent to federal investigators. Less than 2 hours later, a special task force stormed the house. Nathaniel was arrested on the spot, along with folders of documentation outlining her program, including a full list of victims. My dad told me later, when they cracked open her office, they found spreadsheets of ovulation cycles, brokered agreements with young donors, and even handwritten instruction letters. As I watched the clip, my heart raced. Justice had finally extended its arms. But beneath that surge of relief, I also felt a wound, still raw. Dozens of girls had already been victimized. So many stories may never be fully told. This time, Nathaniel was sentenced to 25 years, no chance of parole. Other women involved in the network gradually came forward and faced accountability too. I breathed easier, but I knew my sleep would still carry echoes of those dark memories. And yet, I had learned one truth. Fighting back doesn't end with saving one life. It means exposing the entire system. I promised myself I would continue sharing this story until no child ever had to live in fear of a silver bracelet that was never meant to be worn. Chapter 6: Rebirth and a New Journey. After Nathaniel's sentencing, I once again returned to the safety of my father's home. But this time there was no shadow of my mother, no cursed silver bracelet. And for the first time, I felt an unfamiliar sense of lightness in my chest. But freedom doesn't arrive all at once. It comes in small steps, deep breaths, moments I learned to reclaim in therapy. I began relearning how to sleep. At first, every time I closed my eyes, I saw my mother standing over me with that haunting syringe. Dr. Martinez taught me mindfulness techniques. Breathe deeply. Focus on the rhythm of my heart, the hum of the air conditioner. Then gently guide my thoughts toward a peaceful image. A warm winter afternoon sunlight pouring through the window. I practiced it every night over and over until the nightmares began to fade. During the day, I returned to school under a new identity, Mia, instead of the 13-year-old pregnant girl. To my classmates, I was just the new transfer student, nothing more. I chose the back row, took careful notes, did everything I could to blend in. Sometimes I'd glance at the origami crane made by the foster girl we saved and feel a gentle ache in my chest. I kept it on my desk, a quiet reminder that no matter how deep the wounds, hope always finds a way to remain. Jake wrote me occasionally by email. He said he was studying to become a nurse under a new name, volunteering to help sick children. The news warmed my heart that even fear can become fuel to save others. As for my dad, he worked mostly from home now, arranging his schedule so we could have dinner together every evening. He told me, "No matter how much life changes, you'll always have a place to come back to." By the third month, I joined a support group for survivors, the first place where I shared my full story among others who also carried invisible scars. There were moments when I broke down hearing someone else's pain that went even deeper than mine. But in that room, I found strength in community. Every shared story, every comforting hug reminded me no one should carry their trauma alone. When summer arrived, Dad and I decided to move to a small, coastal town. The blue ocean, the cool breeze, and the rhythmic crashing of waves. It was like the earth itself was whispering comfort to our bruised hearts. I enrolled in a creative writing class and began crafting poems not filled with sorrow, but bursting with longing for life, for growth. Each word felt like a new sprout breaking through the soil of trauma, reaching toward the light. I know that healing isn't a finish line. There are still days when my mind spins, moments when my heart clenches at the thought of my mother being released after just 5 years. But now, I've learned how to hold onto hope. True freedom isn't something given to you. It's a journey you build yourself step by step with the strength of your will and the love of those who never left your side. Chapter 7. The Dawn of Freedom. I never thought I'd be able to wake up each morning feeling this light. There was no creaking lock, no shadow lurking behind my door, just the gentle morning sunlight filtering softly through the dormitory window. I pulled back the thin blanket, tiptoed into the quiet hallway, took a deep breath, and smiled at the day ahead. Before class, I would make myself a cup of warm cocoa place, the little origami crane, my small treasure all this time, gently on the desk, and open my blog. The words I write now are no longer haunted memoirs. They're messages of encouragement. Believe in the road ahead. Every time I hit publish, a sense of peace washes over me like I'm passing hope along to myself and maybe to someone out there who hasn't yet found the strength to stand up. At university, I chose to study psychology and sociology because I want to understand the wounds people carry. I joined a creative writing club telling stories through the written word to amplify the power of one's voice. One afternoon, a classmate rushed over and hugged me tightly. She whispered, "Thank you for sharing your story. I used to think no one would ever believe me." In that moment, I realized I wasn't just saving myself. I was helping others find the courage to speak. Later that evening, as the wind drifted through the corridor, I texted my dad, "I'm okay now." He replied almost instantly, "That makes me so happy, sweetheart." The soft ping of the message felt like a bell ringing inside my heart, a reminder that safety isn't a place, but a bond built on love and trust. I know now that healing isn't a finish line. It's in every step you're brave enough to take forward. And I believe the dawn I woke up to today will lead me to even warmer, freer days ahead. Chapter 8. Ignite and Illuminate. In my final year of university, I was invited to speak at a conference for teachers and social workers. The theme, recognizing and preventing grooming in communities. As I stood on stage, dozens of eyes looking up at me in focused silence, I thought back to that trembling little girl clutching an origami crane just outside the school gates. I took a deep breath and let my voice ring out. We cannot close our eyes when victims remain silent. Every act of support, no matter how small, can change a life. After the talk, many teachers and volunteers came up to shake my hand. They asked for resources, for guidance, for ways to set up support groups. And in that moment, I felt my belief multiply, not just in myself, but in a whole community finally ready to speak up and act. Deep inside, I knew this work was no longer just a mission. It had become the rhythm of my life. And then, on a crisp, late autumn afternoon, I met the two sisters I had once helped escape. Now grown, now glowing, now smiling with a confidence I didn't recognize but was so proud of. The older sister handed me a drawing, a sketch of me, and the two of them standing side by side. Along with it, a handwritten letter. Thank you for giving us the strength to live. Now it's your turn to pass that fire on to the next generation. Tears filled my eyes as I pulled them both into a tight hug. The warmth in that moment felt like sunrise after years of winter. I know the road ahead still holds pain, so many wounded hearts still waiting for healing. But I also know this: I am no longer alone. Every story that's truly heard, every action that's courageously shared, is a candle that pushes back the dark. And in the glow of that fire, I see myself no longer trapped by my past, but standing tall, radiant, ready to guide others toward freedom. This story is a reminder of the power in speaking up, even when the threat comes from the people closest to us. If this video moved you or opened your eyes, please like, share, and subscribe to help spread awareness and protect those whose voices are often ignored. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss another true, powerful story right here on True Reddit Reads. Thank you for watching. Stay strong, stay safe, and see you in the next story.